Have you ever wished that your brain came with an instruction manual? You know, a user's guide? Well, guess what? Today's your lucky day. We're about to give you that guide to the most complex and, honestly, the most fascinating machine on the entire planet, your own mind. So let's dive right into the world of psychology.
I mean, really stop and think about it for a second. Why do you procrastinate on that one big project? Why do you just click with some people instantly but not others? Or how can you remember every single word to a song from 10 years ago, but you have no idea where you just put your keys?
See, all those little moments, forgetting your keys, clicking with a stranger, they're not just random quirks of being human. Nope. There is a whole science dedicated to decoding these exact things, to getting to the very core of our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions.
So think of this as your starter kit for an incredible journey into your own mind. We're going to give you a map to show you all the major territories and a toolkit to show you exactly how psychologists go about exploring them. You ready? Let's get started. Okay, first things first. Before we start exploring this amazing landscape, we need to know what we're actually looking for. So what is psychology anyway? At its heart, it's pretty simple. Psychology is the scientific study of the mind and behavior. And I really want you to focus on that word scientific, because this isn't about just guessing why people do what they do. It's not armchair philosophy. It is all about rigorous, systematic investigation. All right, now for the map. Understanding the mind isn't like following a single straight road. It's more like a vast continent with all these different regions to explore. You wouldn't use the same map to navigate a city as you would to climb a mountain, right? Well, it's the exact same thing here. Psychology is broken down into all these specialized branches, and each one focuses on a totally different part of the human experience. We're going to touch on 10 of the big ones. And I know what you're thinking. 10? That sounds like a lot to keep track of. But don't worry, we're going to break it down. That's the big question, right? But here's a little secret. You don't have to. The goal here isn't to memorize some long list. It's just to get a feel for all the different kinds of questions that psychologists are trying to answer out there. Now, I'm sure there are some complex memory hacks you could use for this, some crazy acronyms, but honestly, I think it's way more interesting to just dive in and explore a couple of these territories to see what they're actually all about. Let's start with a perfect example. Take clinical and counseling psychology. I mean, they sound almost identical, don't they? But there's a really crucial difference. A clinical psychologist is probably working with someone who has a severe disorder, like schizophrenia. A counseling psychologist, they're more likely to be helping someone navigate the common challenges of life. You know, stress at work, family problems. It's really all about a difference in scale and severity. And then you've got a whole other branch like developmental psychology. This one is incredible. It literally maps our entire life's journey. It studies how we grow and change and develop, all the way from infancy through the chaos of being a teenager into adulthood and right into old age. It's basically the psychology of our own personal timeline. And believe me, the map just keeps on expanding. You've got social psychology, which looks at why we act so differently when we're in a crowd. You have industrial psychology, which brings all these ideas into the workplace to figure out what makes us happy and productive at our jobs. There's even biological psychology, which directly connects our thoughts and feelings to the actual physical wiring in our brains. Each branch is like a unique lens for viewing what it means to be human. So we've got our map of the mind's territories. But how do these explorers, these psychologists, actually chart them? Well, let's open up the toolkit and see what they use to study our thoughts and behavior. Remember what we said at the beginning? Psychology is a science. And that means researchers can't just go with a gut feeling. They need a systematic toolkit to gather and analyze data without bias. Okay, the most powerful tool in the entire kit is the experimental method. This is the absolute gold standard for figuring out cause and effect. It's where researchers change just one thing, the independent variable, to see how it affects something else, the dependent variable. And they do this while keeping everything else the same with the control group. This is how we know for sure if a new therapy actually works. But sometimes you need to go really deep instead of really wide. And that's where the case study method comes in. This is an incredibly detailed, in-depth look at just one person or maybe a tiny group. It's often used for really rare or unusual cases. You get this rich, detailed picture that you just couldn't get any other way. But what if you want to understand thousands of people all at once? Well, that's a job for the survey method. You can't do a case study on everyone, right? So you use things like questionnaires to get a broad snapshot of a huge population, and you can do it really quickly.
The only trade-off is you sacrifice all that deep detail for a wide-angle view.
So let's do a quick check of the main tools in the kit. You've got direct observation, interviews for getting someone's story, the super scientific experimental method, those deep dive case studies, and the wide-reaching surveys. The right tool always depends on the exact question the psychologist is trying to answer.
Okay, we've looked at the map, we've looked at the tools, but let's be real, so what? Why does having this basic user's guide to the mind actually matter to you? This is where it all clicks. All of a sudden, you're not just annoyed in a team meeting. You're actually seeing industrial psychology in action. You're not just going through a big life change. You're recognizing a stage of developmental psychology. You're not just watching a crowd react to something. You're seeing the principles of social psychology playing out in real time. It gives you this whole new language to decode the world around you. And more importantly, the world inside you.
See, this isn't just some academic subject you study. It's a practical guide to being human. It's in our relationships, our jobs, our health, our communities. It's the science of us.
So we've handed you the map and the basic toolkit. You can see the major territories of the mind now, from how we interact in groups to how we grow as individuals. But really, the journey is just beginning. So the real question is this: what part of your own mind will you explore first?